Have you ever felt like the world was crashing down on you and your mind started racing faster than your own thoughts? A comment you didn't expect, a mistake at work, a glance you take as an attack. And suddenly, you react without thinking, like a puppet pulled by chaos. But let me tell you something. It's not what happens on the outside that drags you down. It's what you choose on the inside that shapes your destiny. And if you don't train your mind, you'll end up a slave to your impulses. Life doesn't ask for permission. Everything can change in an instant. A phone call that turns your world upside down. A piece of news that keeps you up at night. A surprise that shatters your plan. It's right there in the middle of the shakeup where who you truly are is revealed. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly. The true strength of a man lies in staying calm in the heart of the storm. It's not luck. It's not chance. It's inner discipline. Stoicism never promised a life without obstacles, but it does offer you something far more valuable. The chance to build a calm so solid that no difficulty can steal your peace. In this video, you're going to discover 12 Stoic tools to stay calm in any situation. And if you choose to apply them, I can promise you'll start living differently, freer, stronger, and above all, more in control of yourself. So listen closely, my friend, because what you're about to learn might just change the way you face every day of your life. Now tell me, how long have you felt like the noise around you is the one controlling your inner peace? I'm not talking about the usual day-to-day stress. I mean that feeling that anything, no matter how small, can throw you off balance. That your calm breaks in seconds and you're no longer in charge of yourself. If that sounds familiar, hit subscribe and join this Stoic community that trains its mind every day to be stronger than the chaos. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What's been testing your calm the most lately? Or if you prefer, write it loud and clear. Stoic at heart. To show that today, you're taking the first step toward reclaiming your inner strength. 1. Are you trying to control what will never be in your hands? Let me paint you a scene you might know all too well. You wake up in the morning with everything ready. You picked out your clothes the night before, planned your route to work to avoid delays, even chose the perfect podcast to inspire you on the way. You feel like you've got it all under control, but then the bus is 10 minutes late or someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly your calm shatters like glass hitting the floor. Your mind flares up with frustration, your body tenses, and before you know it, it feels like the entire day is already ruined. The strange thing is, it wasn't the delay or the car that wrecked your mood. It was your obsession with having things go exactly according to plan. It's like you expected life to follow your personal script. No errors, no surprises. But life doesn't work like that. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. If you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. What does that mean? That the problem isn't traffic or rain or a snarky comment from a coworker. The problem is what you decide to think about it. And that, my friend, is something you do control. Picture someone shouting commands at the wind. Blow slower, go the other way, don't mess up my hair. Ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what we do every time we try to control how others behave, how things should go, or even how someone else should feel. It's a pointless effort, trying to fight forces that will never obey. I had to learn this the hard way. One summer I planned a boat trip with friends. I had it all lined up, the route, the food, even a sailor-themed playlist for the ride. But that day, the sea was too rough. I started calling the company, begging to reschedule, asking if they could take us to another area. I spent hours in a state of tension, as if my complaints could calm the waves. In the end, the trip was canceled, and me, exhausted from fighting the impossible, ended up improvising a beach picnic. You know what happened? That unplanned, boatless, off-script day became one of the best memories of that summer. Epictetus would have summed it up in a single line. It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things. And he knew what he was talking about. Born a slave living under severe restrictions, he still taught that real freedom doesn't come from your external circumstances. It comes from your mind. If someone like him could accept what wasn't in his hands, then how can you and I not try to do the same in our daily lives? And this isn't just ancient philosophy. Modern science backs it up. Neuroscientist Maya Shankar calls it cognitive adaptation. She dreamed of becoming a professional violinist, but an injury stole that future from her in seconds. Instead of collapsing, she rebuilt her path and is now a leading voice in the psychology of change. Her conclusion is clear. It's not about avoiding the unexpected. It's about training your mind to bend without breaking when life doesn't follow your script. The mistake is thinking only big tragedies test your calm. The truth is, you can train this muscle in the smallest things. The bus doesn't come, and instead of cursing, you choose to walk a few extra blocks. A plan with friends falls through, and rather than stew in disappointment, you turn the night into time for yourself. Your boss moves up a deadline, and even though it's annoying, you reorganize and keep going. Every time you do this, you're telling your mind, I'm in charge, not the circumstances. Here's a simple practice that can help. Every night, write down a list with 2 columns. One for what was in your control, and one for what never was. You'll be surprised by how much energy goes into the second column. That kind of clarity slowly teaches you to let go. Another powerful tool? A conscious pause. When you feel frustration rising, stop, breathe, and remind yourself, it's not the event, it's my judgment. That phrase from Epictetus is like an anchor that brings you back to the present. And remember this, staying calm doesn't mean becoming cold and indifferent. It means having the wisdom to let go of what's not in your hands and the strength to act on what is. Because if you can't control the sea, then why not learn how to sail it? In the end, the difference between the person who sinks in chaos and the one who keeps moving forward isn't the absence of problems. It's the attitude they bring to them. And that attitude, my friend, is always in your power. 2. Calm, the superpower almost no one trains. Let me ask you something directly. How many times have you lost your calm over something silly? Someone cuts in line at the supermarket, a message arrives without an emoji, and you immediately assume there's bad intent. A comment at home about some tiny detail, and you act like you've just been disrespected. You know it, because we've all done it. And right after you explode, reality hits you. Did I really get that worked up over this? That bitter realization that it wasn't the world dragging you down. It was you who didn't know how to hold your ground. The Stoics knew that calm was the true measure of strength. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by war and betrayal, wrote, "A man's true power is keeping his serenity in the heart of the storm." He wasn't writing from a quiet office. He was in military camps, where any day could be his last. And still, he found that refuge within himself, a space no army, no illness could ever touch. That same calm he practiced is the one almost no one trains today. My friend, picture your mind as a walled city. If the gates are wide open, any noise, any provocation, any comment can come in and wreck everything. But if you have guards at the door, if you learn to choose what you let in and what you don't, then your inner world stays in order, even if there's shouting and chaos outside. That invisible wall, that's calm. Think about your day-to-day. You're in the car, someone cuts you off, and in seconds your heart's pounding like you're under mortal threat. Or someone sends you a short message, no thank you, no emoji, and your mind fills in the tone, the face, the entire story. At home, someone leaves the towel in the wrong place and you react like it's a personal offense. The strange part is, you realize it after you've already snapped. And then comes the question, why did I lose my calm over something so small? The answer's uncomfortable, because you haven't learned to treat your calm like your most valuable treasure. We all talk about taking care of the body, making money, protecting our health, but hardly anyone talks about protecting their calm, when in reality, it's the foundation of everything else. Epictetus used to say that no one can hurt you without your permission, and he was right. What really wounds us isn't the other person's gesture, it's the door we open when we let their poison in. Calm is the key that decides what comes in and what stays out. So how do you train this superpower? Start with the everyday stuff. The next time you feel anger rising, don't act right away. Take a short pause, even just a few seconds, and ask yourself, what do I gain by reacting now? That one question breaks the impulse chain. Another helpful practice is to use your breath as an ally. 3 deep breaths before responding are often enough to bring your mind back to clarity. You can also prepare your ground before the storm hits. Many Stoics practice negative visualization, imagining that something might go wrong so they wouldn't be caught off guard when it did. You can apply this in small ways. Got an important meeting? Think, someone might interrupt me, someone might disagree, and when it happens, instead of getting flustered, you'll recognize it. I expected this. I'm ready. There's another way to train your calm during peaceful times. Set aside a few minutes a day for slow activities. Walk without rushing. Drink a coffee without your phone. Listen to soft music without doing anything else. That's not wasted time. It's strengthening the invisible muscle that will later hold your mind steady when chaos shows up. Calm isn't coldness or indifference. It's choosing the place you want to act from. When you manage to keep it, you don't just trust yourself more, you also inspire others. You become that person who, even when everything is falling apart, still radiates stability. So remember, reacting fast is easy. Anyone can do it. But responding calmly when the world is pushing you to lose it, that's what makes you truly strong. Now I want to hear from you. What everyday situation tests your calm the most? Share it in the comments. Your story might just help someone else see themselves more clearly too. And if you don't know what to write, leave this as your personal declaration. My calm is my true strength. 3. Embrace what you're meant to live. Do you know one of the biggest sources of suffering? It's not what happens, it's the resistance to what happens. That internal fight against reality, as if struggling with it could somehow make it go away. A plan gets canceled, someone changes their mind, something doesn't turn out the way you hoped. And there you are, feeling like the world owes you an explanation. But let me tell you something uncomfortable. Life has no obligation to match your plans, and as long as you believe it does, your calm will always be at risk. As the Stoic sages often reminded us, the real trap isn't what happens on the outside, it's our insistence that it should have gone differently. That resistance is what turns every setback into suffering. Seneca said it bluntly. What hurts us is not the events, but the opinion we have about them. And he was right. Rain doesn't ruin a day by itself. It's the thought, it shouldn't be raining right now, that spoils it. Losing a job isn't what breaks you. It's the thought, this can't be happening to me. That difference, as small as it may seem, is what separates those who collapse from those who keep going. Picture yourself as a bamboo stalk in the middle of a typhoon. The wind howls with all its force. The rigid trees snap in half. But you bend, you yield, you move with the wind, and you survive. You didn't break because you didn't resist the inevitable. And once the storm passes, you stand tall again, stronger than before. That's the Stoic mindset, not blind resistance, but intelligent adaptation. To see it more clearly, think of James Stockdale, the pilot who spent over 7 years as a prisoner in Vietnam. Tortured, isolated, facing an uncertain future. How did he manage to hold on? By accepting the reality he had to live without falling into self-pity. He didn't pretend everything would be better tomorrow, but he also didn't drown in victimhood. He focused on what was in his power and let go of the rest. That inner decision is what saved him. And what does this have to do with you? Whether you work in an office, study, or are just trying to make ends meet? Everything. Because even if you're not in a cell, you also face unexpected storms. A job change, a breakup, an illness, a plan that falls apart with no warning. And right there, just like Stockdale, you get to decide, will I waste energy fighting the inevitable, or will I accept it and move forward? Acceptance is not the same as giving up. Giving up is throwing your hands in the air and letting life drag you around. Acceptance is looking reality in the eye and saying, all right, this is here. Now what do I do with it? It's an active stance. not a passive one. The Stoics practiced a daily exercise you can start using too: premeditation of adversity. Marcus Aurelius did it every morning. He'd think, "Today I will meet ungrateful, arrogant, envious people." It wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. So when it happened, he wasn't shocked or thrown off. You can do the same. Before your day begins, think, "It might rain, someone might disagree with me, something might get canceled." And if it does, you were ready. Another tool is using anchor phrases. When something unexpected happens, repeat to yourself, "This is what's here." Just 5 words, but they bring you back to the present. They interrupt that urge to fight what can't be changed. And from there, you can ask yourself, what's the next step that depends on me? Even in small things, you can train this mindset. If the supermarket line is slower than usual, instead of getting annoyed, use the time to observe your surroundings or mentally go over your day. If someone is late to a meeting, take the moment to read a few pages, listen to music, or just breathe. It's not about forcing yourself to enjoy it. It's about not wasting energy fighting the inevitable. Over time, something surprising happens. When you accept what you're meant to live, the weight you were carrying starts to feel lighter. Not because reality changed, but because you stopped carrying the second burden, the internal struggle. You walk through life freer, with less resistance. So my friend, understand this. Calm doesn't come from a world without problems. It comes from a mind that learns to flow with them without getting lost. That's what makes you unshakable from the inside out. 4. Don't let one emotion ruin your life. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. Intense emotions, if you don't master them, can become your worst enemy. Seneca repeated it in On Anger. Nothing destroys faster than rage when it takes control. And he was right. Anger hides behind justice, behind wounded pride. But once you let it in, it wrecks everything in its path. Relationships, opportunities, even your health. Think about this. It's late at night. You're in front of your laptop, tired, in a terrible mood. From the hallway, your partner asks you to shut it down already, but you feel like you can't stop. The computer is lagging, apps are crashing, and the clock is racing faster than it should. Then suddenly, without even realizing it, you're yelling, clenching your jaw, acting like your whole life depends on this one moment. And the hardest part isn't the mistake you made. It's the emotional hangover that comes after. That emptiness, the anger at yourself, the thought, how did I lose it like that? The strange thing is, it wasn't the problem that defeated you. It was your reaction to the problem. Epictetus would have summed it up with his most famous line, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." That sudden surge of emotion, that fire that rises in seconds, is just a spark. What turns it into a wildfire is letting it grow without control. Let me give you another scene. You're playing a football match with friends. The ref calls a foul that wasn't. One of your teammates loses it, starts yelling, and storms off the field in outrage. Minutes later, the game goes on, but he's no longer part of it. Not mentally, not emotionally. What happened? A fleeting emotion took over his entire life for hours. And worst of all, he lost what actually mattered, the joy of playing. Seneca wrote something worth carving in stone. There is no more reliable proof of greatness than to remain in a state where nothing can disturb you. And he didn't mean turning into a cold, emotionless rock. The Stoics felt fear, sadness, joy, and anger. Just like us. What they taught was not to hand over the steering wheel. Emotions can ride in the car, but they shouldn't touch the wheel. Today, science backs this up. Neuroscience studies show that naming an emotion reduces its intensity. So the next time you feel that wave rising in your chest, don't ignore it. Say it softly to yourself. This is anger. This is frustration. This is fear. By naming it, you turn it into something defined, not a shapeless monster running your life. And this is where small practices come in. You don't need a complex ritual. What you need is a crack in the emotional wall before it locks you in. You can stand up, open a window, let the cold air touch your face. Run your hands under water and feel the temperature. Walk for 5 minutes looking at the sky, and you'll notice how slowly your mind starts to settle. Simple gestures, but they break the loop. Another Stoic tool is conscious delay. When you want to fire off a message that burns, wait a few minutes. Write it, but don't send it yet. That gap between impulse and action is what the wise called self-mastery. It's not about repression. It's about giving yourself enough space to choose your best response. And think about your daily habits. If you never train your calm in times of peace, don't expect to have it in times of war. Spend a few minutes each day just watching your breath, journaling your thoughts, reminding yourself that what you're feeling is temporary. Just like an athlete doesn't compete without training, you won't be able to control your anger if you've never practiced self-control before. Remember this: feeling emotions is not the problem. What's dangerous is letting them decide for you. Anger can ruin a career in seconds. Fear can stop a life-changing opportunity forever. Sadness can close doors that never open again. But when you manage to pause for just a moment, breathe, and return to your center, that's when you realize the emotion is not your enemy. It's just a signal, and you decide what to do with it. So, my friend, don't let a fleeting emotion destroy what you've built with so much effort. Mastering yourself is the greatest act of power there is. And as Seneca said, conquering your emotions is conquering life. 5. Turn the blows into fuel. Seneca once wrote a line that cuts like a knife. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body. And he knew exactly what he was talking about. Just like a muscle needs resistance to grow, the mind needs challenges to become stronger. The problem is, instead of using those challenges as training, we often experience setbacks as personal curses, and that's where we lose our calm and our confidence. Picture yourself in the ocean. One wave after another keeps pushing you back. At first, you fight, you kick, you exhaust yourself. But then comes the moment you figure out the trick. If you move with the waves, each one stops dragging you down and starts carrying you forward. Without realizing it, you're closer to the shore. Life works the same way. A blow can be the wave that drowns you, or the one that propels you forward. It all depends on your attitude. Maybe this sounds too nice in theory, but let me ask you, haven't you already gone through something that hurt like hell at the time, but later made you stronger? That breakup that forced you to get to know yourself better. That job loss that opened a path you never would have considered. That illness that taught you to appreciate what you used to take for granted. It wasn't pleasant, it wasn't easy, but in the end, it became fuel. Let me share a scene with you. A friend of mine, Daniel, spent months working on a massive project, days without rest, late nights at his computer. All his energy went into it. And just 1 week before the launch, the client canceled it. Goodbye to the money, goodbye to the recognition, and worst of all, that crushing feeling of having lost everything. For days, he was down. But one day, he decided to learn a digital tool he hadn't mastered. He started with small freelance jobs. One of those clients recommended him. That led to a chain of opportunities he never could have imagined. The blow hurt, but it also became the engine of his reinvention. The Stoics would see it clearly. It's not the blow that shapes your future, it's what you do afterward. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, what looks like an obstacle can become the very road that takes you further. So how can you apply this without waiting for some huge life tragedy? Start by changing the question. When something goes wrong, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Maybe the answer won't come right away, but that shift alone moves you from victim to leader of your own story. Another powerful practice is turning anger into motion. If a plan falls apart, write down one small action you can take, and do it today. It doesn't have to be huge. Read a few pages from a book, send one email, test a new strategy. The goal isn't to fix everything. It's to restore the feeling that you're still in motion. That tiny step is what turns the wound into fuel. And don't forget to recognize every bit of progress, no matter how small. You got out of bed when you didn't want to. You stuck to a basic routine. You resisted the urge to explode. That's already a win. Celebrating those moments builds your confidence and reinforces your calm. Little by little, you create the belief that you can walk through any storm. On your darkest days, when you feel like the blow has knocked you flat, remember this: from the ground, you can see perspectives you'd never notice standing up. Some of life's greatest discoveries are born right there, in the middle of the fall. The Stoic prisoners of history knew this. Modern stories confirm it, and you can prove it to yourself if you choose to look at things from a new angle. Next time life hits you, breathe. Remind yourself that every blow is a disguised opportunity. Then take one small step forward. That's how you turn pain into fuel and make your calm unbreakable. Now tell me, what recent blow could you turn into fuel? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to leave your Stoic mark today, write, "Today I turn my blows into fuel," because those who know how to use adversity as fuel, my friend, never stay down for long. 6. Real strength is acting with integrity. There's a moment we've all experienced, that instant when you know exactly what you should do, but inside, there's a voice whispering, "Do what's easy, do what's quick, do what feels good." That temptation often shows up disguised as comfort, instant pleasure, or the chance to look good. But almost every time you give in, you end up paying the price. Your calm. Marcus Aurelius said it with a clarity that leaves no room for excuses. If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. This wasn't some motivational poster quote. It was his daily compass, guiding him through an empire filled with betrayal and temptation. He could have used his power to take advantage, to get revenge, to let himself go. But he knew that if he wanted to trust himself, he had to stay true to what was right, even when it wasn't easy. Think of all the times you gave in to what your impulses wanted and regretted it right after. That argument where you threw out a hurtful comment just to win the moment. That urge to spend money you didn't have on something you didn't need. That late-night snack that gave you a second of pleasure and a day of regret. The pattern repeats. What feels like a quick win ends up becoming a quiet loss. Doing the right thing is like planting a tree. You don't see results at first. It feels like nothing's changing. But over time, that decision gives you shade, fruit, and deep roots that hold your life steady. On the other hand, following your cravings is like burning firewood for a flash of heat. It's gone in seconds, and you're left in the cold and dark. Let me tell you about Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. He lost everything: his family, his home, his freedom. But he never lost his dignity in choosing what was right. He spoke about how even in the most horrific circumstances, some people kept their humanity, sharing a piece of bread, offering comforting words, refusing to steal from another prisoner. These acts didn't change the world around them, but they protected their inner freedom. Frankl said the last of all human freedoms is to choose your attitude in any given circumstance. That choice, even if no one sees it, is what keeps you whole. The same applies in your daily life. You don't have to be in a concentration camp to face these decisions. Sometimes all it takes is a meeting at work. Your boss asks a tough question, and you see a chance to shine by throwing someone else under the bus. The temptation is strong, but if you choose to stand for what you know is right, maybe you won't get the applause in the moment, but you'll gain something far more valuable: the peace of being able to look yourself in the mirror without flinching. That peace is the foundation of your confidence. Because how can you trust someone who betrays themselves at the first sign of pressure? This isn't about earning others' trust. It's about earning your own. Every time you follow through on what you know is right, you send yourself a powerful message. I can count on me. And that kind of inner certainty becomes a shield, one that stays steady even when the world shakes around you. So how do you stay strong when temptation hits hard? It's not about memorizing a list of strict rules. It's about preparing your mind. Start by identifying your non-negotiable values. Write them down, make them clear. If honesty, loyalty, or justice are your foundation, then when the moment of doubt comes, you won't have to guess. You'll already know the way. Another practice is training your internal brake. Before you act on an impulse, pause, breathe, then picture two scenes. How will you feel if you give in and betray your values? And how will you feel if you do what's right, even if it's hard? That comparison brings clarity. Temptation shouts in the present, but your calm lives in the future. And don't forget to celebrate your silent wins. Every time you choose what's right, even if no one claps for it, acknowledge it. It can be as simple as thinking, "I did it. I stayed true." Those reminders slowly build a confidence so solid, it no longer depends on outside approval. Doing what's right won't always give you the fastest way out, but it will give you the deepest peace. And that peace, my friend, is the strongest shield you'll ever have. Because when you choose what you know is right, even in the face of your own impulses, you build a refuge inside you, one no storm can break through. 7. Why do you let others decide your worth? Years ago in Rome, a slave could be insulted constantly by his master. He might be called useless, lazy, insignificant. But there was one, Epictetus, who understood a truth that made him untouchable. No one could take away his worth unless he handed it over. They could chain his body, but they couldn't chain his mind. That was his freedom, even in slavery. And that lesson, centuries later, is just as necessary today. Let's be honest. How many times have you let a simple comment ruin your day? It doesn't even have to be a direct insult. Someone says, "You look tired," and suddenly you're convinced your energy's gone. Or, "That shirt is interesting," and now you never want to wear it again. It's like people's words have a direct switch to your self-esteem. And the worst part? Most of the time, they didn't even mean it badly. The real problem is how easily we give it all away. We hand others the pen to write our own definition. And of course, if you let anyone decide who you are, you end up becoming a reflection of their judgments instead of the owner of your own voice. The Stoics spoke of inner autonomy, that kind of independence of the soul that doesn't rely on praise or criticism to stand strong. Seneca warned that those who live for external approval are like slaves changing masters every time the room changes. One day people applaud you and you think you're worthy. The next they criticize you and you feel like nothing. Is that really how you want to live? On that kind of emotional roller coaster? Here's an example. A young artist exhibits his first piece. Some people praise it, others laugh, and one even says out loud it looks like a child's drawing. The artist crumbles inside and decides never to show his work again. What really happened? It wasn't the criticism that killed his art. It was the permission he gave it to become a sentence. But someone else in his place could have said, "I like what I made, and I'm going to keep learning." That shift, refusing to hand your worth to someone else's judgment, can change an entire life. You've lived this too, in everyday moments. A joke in the office WhatsApp group, a strange look on the street, that silence after you give your opinion. Tiny things, but if you're not careful, they land like punches to your confidence. The strange thing is, the real power isn't with the person who speaks. It's with you, who decides what it all means. So how do you start training that kind of freedom? One way is to ground your day with a personal phrase that reminds you who you are before the world tries to tell you. Not empty affirmations, but intentional reminders. For example, "Today I walk tall because I know my worth." Say it out loud with conviction, and you'll feel the difference. It's like putting on invisible armor each morning. Also, keep track of your small wins, not the big flashy stuff, the little things. You finished that report you kept putting off. You worked out when you didn't feel like it. You were kind when you were exhausted. Every night, write down 3 of those wins and say to yourself, "This counts too." Over time, your mind builds up an internal library of proof. So when a harsh comment comes your way, it won't land in an empty space. It'll hit a fortress full of evidence. Another tool? Build what I call unshakable beliefs. Short but powerful statements that define your worth from the inside, not based on anyone else. Things like, I can adapt. My dignity doesn't depend on applause. I have the tools to get through this. Write them down and review them every week. Not to convince yourself of something fake, but to remember what you've already proven. If you stick with this, there will come a day when outside opinions sound like background noise. Not because you don't listen, but because you know how to filter. Some criticism will be useful, take it in and improve. But the kind that only aims to hurt or label you, that stays outside, because your worth is no longer up for auction. It's been decided by you, and that right there is real strength. Walking through life with calm and confidence, knowing that nothing outside of you can make you feel small unless you allow it. Just like Epictetus, who, even in chains, held onto his inner freedom, you can rise each day with the unshakable truth that your worth doesn't belong to anyone else. 8. The mind trains too. Picture this. In Rome, gladiators spent endless hours preparing their bodies. Swords, shields, running under the scorching sun. Every muscle trained to endure blows, cuts, and exhaustion. A single mistake could cost them their life. But there was another battle. One that wasn't fought with a blade, but in silence. The battle of the mind. The Stoics understood this well. You could have the strongest body in the world and still fall apart if you hadn't learned to master your thoughts. Because when fear showed up before a fight, when the crowd roared, when the blood started to flow, it wasn't your muscles that decided your fate. It was your inner strength. And the Stoics warned about this too. What's the use of a strong body if the mind is weak? In the end, when life throws its punches, it's not your biceps that determine your path. It's your ability to stay calm under pressure. Now tell me, doesn't something similar happen to you today? You spend time watching your diet, stretching, maybe even hitting the gym consistently. But when an unexpected problem shows up, when you get bad news, when someone pushes your buttons, where's all that control? Your mind, the one you haven't trained with the same discipline, collapses like a sandcastle at the first wave. Picture this. Someone trains for months to run a marathon. They train daily, eat right, time their runs. But halfway through the race, an unexpected pain hits, and their mind starts whispering, "You can't keep going. Just quit. What's the point?" The body still has strength, but the untrained mind becomes the worst enemy. And it's the same for you. You can be healthy, strong, with all the right conditions around you. But if your mind hasn't been worked on, the first blow from life knocks you flat. Your mind, my friend, is like a wild young horse. It's powerful, but if you don't learn how to guide it, it'll drag you down any path, even into the abyss. It'll charge at every distraction, every fear, every useless thought. And when you try to pull back, it might be too late. But if you train it, little by little, with patience, that same wild force becomes your greatest ally, capable of carrying you further than you ever imagined. Let me give you another everyday scene. You sit down to meditate for 5 minutes. You close your eyes. After 30 seconds, your brain is already listing emails, groceries, awkward conversations. You get frustrated and think, "I'm no good at this." But you try again the next day. You manage to stay with your breath for 40 seconds. A week later, you complete the full 5 minutes. And one day, without even realizing it, someone interrupts you harshly and you don't react the same. You breathe, think, respond better. That's the invisible result of mental training. Epictetus put it simply, nothing great is created suddenly. Mental strength isn't something you're born with. It's daily practice, just like lifting weights. You don't start with 100 kilos, you start with consistency and small reps that add up to real strength. Today, science has a name for this: neuroplasticity. It means your brain literally reshapes based on what you repeat. Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains it this way: every time you practice a mental habit, even for a few minutes, you're rewiring your nervous system to respond differently next time. It's not magic, it's biology. And here's the best part: you don't need endless hours. You just need small, consistent practices. Start your day by reading 2 pages of an inspiring book instead of opening social media. 2 pages might seem like nothing, but it's a signal to your mind. We start the day by feeding, not draining ourselves. Another simple practice. Every morning, write down how you feel and what you learned yesterday. It's not a teenager's diary. It's a mental lab. That's where you detect what steals your calm, what strengthens it, and how to adjust. Writing gives shape to your thoughts instead of letting them stay as vague noise. You can also transform your nights. Instead of wasting an hour scrolling, listen to a podcast that makes you reflect, or play a breathing audio. It might feel like nothing at first, but that gesture improves your sleep and gives you more clarity the next day. Mental training has a powerful effect on your confidence, because the next time life hits you, you'll know you have tools, that your mind has already practiced holding the line in small moments, and now it's ready for the big ones. Just like an athlete trusts their training, you'll trust your mind, because you've prepared it. At first, you may feel like you're not making progress. Your mind keeps wandering, your focus is weak, and it all feels pointless. But remember how the gym works. In the first few weeks, you don't see new muscles, until one day you realize you run further, lift heavier, last longer. The mind is the same. Nothing seems to change until the day you respond differently and you realize you're no longer the same. If you want to build a calm no one can take from you, you can't leave your mind on autopilot. Every minute you train it is another brick in the wall that protects you from chaos. And when that wall is solid, the outside world stops being a threat. So start today. You don't need hours, just consistency. Because a trained mind doesn't break, and every day you practice, you move one step closer to being unshakable. That's the kind of strength no one, absolutely no one, can take from you. And if you feel like your mind still gets dragged around by every message, every opinion, every bit of noise, it's time to go to the next video on your screen. There, you'll discover how to strengthen your calm even further, until nothing and no one can shake it. And who knows, maybe that's when you'll start to feel real change. 9. Live like you don't have a single day to waste. Imagine this. You get unexpected news. You have just one day left to live. Exactly 24 hours, not a minute more. What would you do with that time? Would you stay upset because someone didn't reply to your message? Would you spend energy replaying a pointless argument from yesterday? Of course not, because suddenly, everything that felt important would collapse under the weight of what truly matters. In that moment, the things that steal your calm and confidence would feel ridiculous. And yet, most of the time, we live as if we've got an endless supply of days, as if there's always a tomorrow to finally start living. But the Stoics weren't fooled by that illusion. They saw every day as a loan, one that could be called in at any time. That's why they didn't postpone the essential. They understood that putting things off until tomorrow was the most certain way to lose today. Here's the trap. You think you've got plenty of time, but you don't. Writer Tim Urban illustrated this with a powerful image, a sheet of tiny boxes, each one representing a day of your life, from birth to death. When you see it laid out, something shifts. Suddenly you realize those little boxes aren't as many as you thought. And worse, you're crossing them off fast, spending them on things you won't even remember. Endless scrolling, repetitive complaints, pointless arguments. It's like erasing your life with an invisible pencil. Seneca wrote it in On the Shortness of Life. It's not that we have too little time, but that we waste much of it. His words weren't a lecture. They were a wake-up call. Time is enough if you use it well, but if you let it slip away on distractions and meaningless reactions, it vanishes like water through your fingers. The Stoic didn't ask for more hours. He aimed to live each one with purpose, calm, and awareness. Just look at the everyday stuff. You say you don't have time for yourself, but you spend 2 hours on videos you won't even remember tomorrow. You say you don't have time for your loved ones, but you keep putting off that simple call with the excuse of, "I'll do it tomorrow." And then, when the day ends, you feel that hollow ache. the one that comes from investing your time in nothing. The problem isn't time, it's how you spend it, and how often you let untrained emotions eat it alive. The Stoics trained their minds every morning with the thought that they could die that same day, not out of fear, but to give weight to the present. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Live as if you were already dead. What's left is a gift." If you think about it, that mindset is incredibly freeing. Because when you accept that today could be your last, you stop giving value to what doesn't deserve it, and you start focusing on what truly counts. So how can you live this without falling into anxiety? Start by cutting out the obvious time thieves. That habit of checking your phone every 2 minutes. That show you don't even enjoy but keep watching out of habit. Those repetitive conversations that go nowhere. Every useless thing you let go of is a day you get back. Then, choose small actions that connect you with who you want to become. You don't need hours, 10 minutes reading something that inspires you. A short walk to clear your thoughts. Writing down just 2 lines about what you learned today. These are tiny gestures, but when you repeat them, your life gains direction. It's not about how much time you have. It's about the intention behind how you use it. And don't forget something essential. Say what you need to say to the people you love today. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now. A quick call, a heartfelt message, an unplanned visit. These acts don't just strengthen your relationships. They clear your mind of the weight of what's left unsaid. They give you back your calm, because you're no longer carrying emotional leftovers. In the end, living like you don't have time to waste doesn't mean living in a rush. It means living with focus. It means you don't let a pointless argument, a mindless distraction, or a made-up fear steal an entire day. Every time you choose calm over reaction, purpose over distraction, you win back a box on your life's page. And when you stack up enough of those boxes, you build a life that stays steady, even when everything around it changes. 10. Silence your secret refuge. A few years ago, a friend told me something curious. He decided to spend an entire weekend without TV, without music, without social media. Just him, his notebook, and long walks in the countryside. That first day felt strange, like silence was an awkward enemy. His mind kept screaming, "Check your phone. Put something on. Fill this empty space." But by the second day, something shifted. His thoughts began to settle on their own, like someone had opened a window in a room that had been closed for years. On Sunday, when he returned to his routine, he told me, "I've never felt so clear in my life." And from that day, I understood the same truth the Stoics grasped centuries ago. Silence isn't the absence of noise, it's the presence of calm. That inner refuge was, for them, one of the most powerful tools to stay grounded when everything around them shook. So let me ask you, when was the last time you were truly in silence? And no, I don't mean that forced silence on the subway, surrounded by people with earbuds and screens. I mean a moment where you shut everything off and it's just you, listening to your breath, your thoughts, your inner world. If it takes you a while to remember, that's a sign. It's been too long. Most of us live like glasses of water being constantly shaken. Inside, everything's cloudy, floating particles, stirred up emotions. You can't see the bottom, you can't tell what's essential. But if you let the glass sit still, everything settles, and the water clears. That's how your mind works too. If you never let it rest, you'll never see what you're really feeling or thinking. Marcus Aurelius said it perfectly in Meditations. People seek retreats for themselves, houses in the country, by the sea and the mountains. You long for these things too. But this is the trait of the most ordinary of men. It's in your power, whenever you want, to retreat into yourself. He wasn't talking about escaping physically, but about finding something even more valuable, your inner silence. That space you can return to when the world is roaring, a place no one can touch. And notice this, modern science backs the same idea. Cal Newport, author of Deep Work, insists that silence isn't a luxury. It's a necessary condition for clear thinking. Your brain wasn't built to bounce between notifications without consequences. When you eliminate noise, your inner connections grow stronger. Ideas surface that were buried beneath distraction. Even now, many creative leaders and thinkers deliberately seek out silent spaces. It's no coincidence that Ryan Holiday, one of the most well-known voices on Stoicism today, blocks out time to work without interruptions. No music, no phone. He calls it an act of power, deciding when to listen and when to be still. And the best part? You don't need a cabin in the mountains to practice this. Start small. Turn off all notifications for just 30 minutes. Don't open social media, don't play music. Just sit still and notice what's happening inside you. At first you'll feel uncomfortable, like something's missing. Your mind will search for noise to escape. But if you stay with it a little longer, you'll realize that discomfort is just the built-up noise finally fading away. Then, find your own silent spot. It could be a closed room, a quiet park, or even your parked car in a calm corner. Stay there longer than feels comfortable, because it's in that extra time when your mind really settles, just like the water in the glass. And what comes after isn't boredom, it's clarity. With practice, you'll discover that silence doesn't disconnect you from the world. It connects you better to it. Because when you know how to retreat within yourself, you return with more calm, more focus, and a confidence that doesn't depend on the chaos outside. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of your clearest self. It's that space where you can hear what truly matters, where you regain control over what you think and feel. And once it becomes part of your routine, even just for a few minutes each day, you become harder to shake. While others are dragged around by every noise, you choose when to open the door and when to close it. And that quiet power, my friend, is one of the purest ways to keep your calm intact. Now tell me, what place has become your refuge when the outside world is loud? Share it in the comments to inspire others. And if you haven't found one yet, leave this phrase as your personal commitment. Today, I choose silence as my strength. 11. Surround yourself with people who make you stronger. Imagine this. Every person you spend time with is like a different kind of weather. With some, it's spring. You feel light. Everything blossoms. Ideas flow. With others, it's a storm. You leave drenched in complaints, doubts, and harmless comments that soak all the way to your bones. And if you stay too long in the rain, even if you don't notice it at first, you end up cold, drained, and stuck. Haven't you felt that? You're at work, and that coworker who always sees the negative starts up again. Nothing matters, nothing works. Everything's pointless. Or you meet up with a friend, and instead of feeling inspired, you walk away convinced you'll never make it. Or maybe you get home, and someone close to you throws out jokes that sound light, but hit like needles. After a while, you start wondering why your calm is so shaky, why your confidence feels fragile. The truth is, we rarely stop to look closely at the effect our environment has on us. But if you want a reality check, ask yourself this. Who are the 5 people I spend the most time with? Because whether you realize it or not, you're becoming like them. It's like plugging your phone into a broken charger. Instead of filling you up, it drains you slowly. And you only notice when your battery is already flashing red. Seneca saw it clearly. Associate with those who can make you better. The one who is with you is with you. He didn't say it to sound wise. He said it because he knew how much our company shapes us. It affects how we think, how we react, and even our ability to stay calm in the chaos. Epictetus warned of the same thing. If you spend time around people who live in anger or complaint, you'll inevitably start copying them, because the soul catches habits like a sickness. I've lived this myself. When I started changing my habits, taking care of my mind, trying to grow, I realized the circle around me didn't fit that path. 2 people made me feel small with every comment. One complained nonstop. Another froze at the smallest change. And the last one lived permanently in victim mode. I wanted to move forward, but every interaction felt like running with a backpack full of rocks. Eventually, I understood. If I wanted to hold on to my calm and confidence, I had to let go of some of that weight. And I'm not the only one. Oprah Winfrey once said that her success didn't just come from talent or hard work. It came from surrounding herself with people who lifted her up, not held her back. She chose to step away from draining relationships, even when they were close or meaningful in the past. She realized protecting her environment was also protecting her inner strength. Marcus Aurelius thought the same way. He knew we'd inevitably run into envious, arrogant, or ungrateful people, but insisted that our job was not to be pulled down by them, and to seek the company of those who shared virtue and reason. If you want to test this yourself, try this exercise. Write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Doesn't matter if they're friends, family, or co-workers. Next to each name, draw an arrow, up if they lift you, down if they drain you. When you're done, look at the pattern. If most arrows point down, there's your answer. That's why your mind feels like it's constantly under siege. The next step isn't to disappear from their lives overnight. It's to protect yours. Reduce conversations that spiral into endless complaining or gossip. Step out of dynamics you know always end badly. Find healthy excuses to prioritize other activities. And at the same time, increase moments with those who lift you. A short coffee, a quick call, a shared project. You don't need grand gestures, just more exposure to what fuels you and less to what drains you. And remember something crucial. You are also part of someone else's climate. Ask yourself what you bring when someone spends time with you. Do you energize them or wear them down? Being aware of this makes you someone who doesn't just protect their environment, but actually improves it. The Stoics believed that virtue wasn't something to hoard. It had to be shared. If your calm is strong, you'll spread calm. If your strength is solid, you'll help others rise. Because in the end, your calm and your confidence aren't isolated fortresses. They feed off the people who walk with you. If you choose your company well, you gain an invisible shield against any storm. But if you don't, no matter how strong you are, you'll end up soaked by weather you never asked for. The question is, are you going to let just anyone decide your inner climate? Or will you choose to surround yourself only with those who make you stronger? 12. Stay steady when everything falls apart. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself in a frozen landscape. Silence sharp as a blade, wind slicing your skin like knives, a ship trapped in sheets of ice cracking beneath it like they're ready to swallow it whole. That's what Ernest Shackleton and his men faced in Antarctica. The ship Endurance was locked in place, unmoving, condemned to be crushed. Fear spread through the crew. Some panicked, others shut down completely. The normal reaction would have been collapse, but Shackleton chose something else: to walk among his men, to project calm, to lead by example. He didn't sell illusions or make impossible promises. He simply held the line. We're getting out of this together. And they did. What kept Shackleton going wasn't luck or superhuman strength. It was his ability to be the cliff that holds still while the waves crash. That kind of strength is exactly what the Stoics had been seeking for centuries. They knew true greatness wasn't in avoiding the storm. It was in standing tall when the storm hits. Marcus Aurelius wrote it with brutal clarity. Be like the rocky headland against which the waves break. It stands firm, and the seething waters are laid to rest at its feet. That's the Stoic image, not someone cold or numb, but someone who's learned to stay whole when the world outside tries to break them. What we admire in Shackleton is the same thing the Stoics admired in virtue: the ability to govern yourself when everything else falls apart. And this is where your life comes in. You don't need to be trapped in Antarctic ice to feel like things are collapsing. All it takes is one phone call, a crisis at work, or an argument exploding at home. Suddenly, the world shakes. Everyone around you is running, shouting, unraveling. And in that moment, you have a choice: get swept up in the chaos or be the one who holds the line. The Stoics trained exactly for that. That's why they practiced negative visualization, imagining they could lose their wealth, their health, or even the people they loved. Not to suffer ahead of time, but to prepare, so that when the blow landed, it wouldn't find them unguarded. They had already rehearsed their response. Shackleton, without even realizing it, did the same. He accepted the ship was lost and focused entirely on what could still be saved, his crew's lives. Now picture a moment from everyday life. A meeting at work spirals out of control. Voices rise, blame flies, tension thickens. Most people feed the fire, get pulled into the noise, but you choose a different path. You breathe, slow down, listen more than you speak, and when you do speak, your words are clear and steady. In that moment, you become a lighthouse. And others, even if they don't say it, begin to steady themselves around you. Calm doesn't mean passivity. It means strategy. The Stoics knew that mastering yourself was the first condition for influencing the world. Because tell me, how can you lead, inspire, or guide others if you're the first to lose control? Staying steady doesn't mean standing still. It means acting from a place where your emotions don't take the wheel. If you want to build that steadiness, start with small mental anchors. A phrase you repeat in moments of tension. I am not the chaos. I am the calm. It's not superstition. It's a trigger that resets your posture, your breath, your focus. Then train yourself to slow down in the storm. While others run, you measure every step. That doesn't make you slow. It makes you precise. And above all, remember, the storm always passes. No noise lasts forever. But the confidence you gain from holding your ground can last a lifetime. Shackleton survived because he chose to hold steady when everything seemed lost. The Stoics taught us to do the same, not just in extreme moments, but in everyday life. They refused to be dragged down by misfortune, criticism, or fear because they knew that within each of us, there's a space nothing and no one can reach unless we allow it. That is your refuge. That is your fortress. So, my friend, when the next wave of chaos comes, and it will, remember, your role is not to control the sea. It's to decide whether you'll be rock or sand. Sand scatters at the first hit. Rock remains. And that choice, and the choice to stay standing when everything is falling, that's what defines your true strength. Staying calm and confident in yourself, that's what truly allows you to move forward without letting anything or anyone shake your mind. Every day brings new tests, delays, criticism, loss, unexpected surprises. But every day is also a chance to prove to yourself that you're stronger than you think. The Stoics understood this well. It's not about waiting for a world without storms. It's about becoming someone who can walk through them with serenity. Because real strength isn't about dodging the hits. It's about still standing after you've taken them. It's not about complaining over what's beyond your control. It's about training your mind so nothing can steal your clarity. And that training, my friend, starts now, with every decision you make, with every reaction you choose. If you've made it this far, I want you to declare it boldly in the comments. Still standing, even when everything shakes. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are, the ones who made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss what's coming next. Also, check the description box. We've left some resources there to help you dive deeper into Stoic teachings. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. And if at any point you feel like supporting us so we can keep creating this kind of content, you'll find how to do that in the pinned comment. Now, I invite you to explore the playlist on screen. It's designed to help you face life with greater wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep growing together. Until the next talk, take care, and keep embracing your inner Stoic.